We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our Lazy Boy furniture.
Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat's still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. Still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. For temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. It's another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Some isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you, just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A. This is Denis Phillips Live, sponsored by Lazy Boy Furniture Galleries. Level up your lazy moments. Visit one of our 6 Bay Area showrooms today. Lazy Boy, long live the lazy.
How you doing, everybody? Tuesday night edition of Denis Phillips Live. I am fired up tonight. You may have even noticed it on the headline of the link to go to DPL. I, in the last week, have probably fielded about 30 or 40 messages from people asking in fear that hurricane season is going to be unlike anything they've ever seen. And I don't have a copy of this on my computer, but here, I'm going to show you what one of the messages was. I don't know who this is. This is just one of many. But, so read that, okay? If you can read it. So that's what people are sending me, right? You can read that. I think you can read it. Is it too close? I don't know. I'll read it for you. 1 in 284,000 year event. Current sea temperatures now warm as June, signaling extremely violent hurricane season. On so many levels, I don't even know where to begin with that nonsense, all right? If you want to take one little facet of what causes a hurricane season to be active or not active, yeah, a lot of people have talked. In fact, matter of fact, the water temperature isn't as warm as it typically is in June. It's as warm as it typically is in July. So, yeah, oh, by the way, I've got this hoodie on because I left my blue one on the washing machine and I forgot it. So this is the only one that I had, that I had here. I don't even know if it fits anymore, but whatever. Anyway, we're going to get into the tropics because it's worth talking about, only because I've gotten so many messages from y'all. But we're also going to talk about rain chances, warm air. We got a lot going on, but we do want to do our hellos. Emily, how are you? As always, great to see you. You popped up on my feed right then and there. Ryan, Anna Maria, Steven, Dave, Steve. Oh, this is the core group. This is the OGs. Maureen, how you doing? Dave in Bradenton. Newport Richie's in the house with Dominique. Alicia, good to see you as always. Kathy, nice to see you. We have got Carrie in NPR. We've got Jules. How you doing, Jules? And notification probs, huh? You did not get a notification, Jules? Is that what you're telling me? Well, I will have to check with our crack web staff to see why that would be the case, because I do not know. I don't know, because I got it on mine. Anyway, Mary and Lilman, Bridget, how goes it? Boy, that's rare. Yeah, Bridget is usually out chasing Toto somewhere, and I'm not talking about, and your little dog too. I'm talking about the group. But she's here tonight. So, Bridget, how you doing? David, again, Julie in Palm Harbor. Didn't even say Palm Harbor, but I know you're in Palm Harbor. We've got Mary in West Lillman. We've got Marie and Dunellen check in. We've got Diana wants to get into spring before we talk about the tropics. I am totally with you, all right? So we've got lots and lots of folks here. Cheryl, Mike in Pinellas Park, Kim in Lakewood Ranch. Hey to you, Sherry. Riverview's in the house with Courtney, the Nature Coast, with Linda, Brian in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Man, Brian, what are you doing up there? Coastal Manatee County, Jan. We've got Melbourne's in the house with Maritza, my apologies. So we got lots of folks here, but we got a lot of stuff to talk about, all right? So we're gonna start, Micanopy's in the house. Robin, I will tell you, when I used to work in Gainesville, I worked at Channel 20, TV 20 in Gainesville, and that was, when I was there, you ever seen the movie Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox? It's a really cute little movie. That, and I'm sure you know this, that movie was filmed in Micanopy. Woody Harrelson, David Steer, the guy who was in MASH. Anyway, that movie was filmed in Micanopy, and it was there when I was in Gainesville. So, you know, I would be out at Albertsons at night after the 11 o'clock news, and Woody Harrelson would run into the grocery store to buy beer. Never saw Michael J. Fox, but I saw Woody Harrelson all the time. Anyway, that film was filmed in Micanopy, which is right outside of Gainesville. It's a great little movie. If you've never seen it, you absolutely should. It's worth your time. It really is. And, oh, wow. So it was filmed at your Aunt Jane's house in Evanston, Florida. At least the home seating was. I know, you know, the squash parade or the zucchini parade or whatever it was filmed actually right in downtown Micanopy. I digress. How you guys doing? Zephyr Hills, David Ogden Steers. That's correct, Stan. Thank you very much. Anne Mary. And Janine, good to see you. Anna Maria, yes. So, all right, let's talk weather. We're going to start. We got a lot going on here. And I'm going to get fired up because I'm already fed up with reading all the comments, not the comments from you, the stories and the whatnot. Oh, it's going to be the worst hurricane season ever because the water's super warm. Folks, do you know how many pieces to the puzzle come into making it an active hurricane season? Right off the bat, the biggest one, dry Saharan air that comes off the coast of Africa, I don't care how warm the water is, will squash development if the air is too dry. And then there's the talk about La Nina. Yep, there's going to be a transition to a La Nina from an El Nino. I'll get into this. Let's just get into the local weather first, all right? I do want to talk about it because you guys know I'm emceeing the Gasparilla Festival of the Arts this weekend over at Julian B. Lane. It is a great event. It is honestly my favorite event of the entire year. I've been doing it now for several years. The volunteers are amazing. The art is amazing. They give away tens of thousands of dollars of prize money and scholarship money to people. It's really just a great event. And I know for a fact that the reason that they've kept me on for so many years is because they want me to keep the rain away. One year it rained the entire time and they literally had to cancel. It was horrible. Everything was remote. But this year there will be some scattered showers. It will not be a washout, but there are going to be some showers around on Saturday and, again, even into Sunday, and we'll talk about that in just a second as well. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I got to find that comment. Yeah, okay. So anybody who is here who just wants us to get down to specific parts of weather, see you around. That is not what we do here, all right? We have interactions, we communicate, people tell how their lives are doing, we do some weather. If you just want weather, bye-bye. And go somewhere else, all right? We give you the weather, but we also give you a little bit of conversation and a way to vent and a way to chat. So, you know what? I don't know who that was, but you can tell me who it was and I can ban them because that's always a fun thing to do. I enjoy doing that. All right. But I missed the comment. I just saw the reply. All right. So you're right, Mary. It's hashtag chit chat because that's what we do. And if you don't like chit chat, then go elsewhere. All right. Let's go back. Let's get back to some weather briefly. You are right, Bridget. Okay. So let's. Oh, yeah. And hashtag squirrel, right? a very nice woman who has a daughter, I think, who's afraid of hurricanes, and they have a Disney cruise planned in July. And she legitimately asked me if I thought that she should cancel the cruise because of all this hype about the hurricane season. I'm like, no. On so many levels, no. One, if a storm was coming where you were going to be, this cruise ship would go in the other direction. But anybody who is out there saying that, oh, well, it's going to be warm, the water is warm, and it's going to be La Nina, we're going to have more hurricanes than ever before. Whatever. All right, for the fifth time, let's get back to the Mac's computer and we can talk about it. Dave, how you doing? Nice to see you. Okay, gosh, I want to see where this person is. Give me a name, Anna Maria. Come on, you're the enforcer in this group. I want a name. Jamia, how you doing? I'm scrolling through. I am. I'm literally scrolling through to find this comment. Oh, no, that's not it. All right, Anna Maria, get me oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. Okay, wait a minute. Banned from all live streams. Ban. Okay. They're gone. All right. So temperatures right now in the 60s to the lower 70s. There's a close-up view, upper 60s. Really a beautiful day today. But you know what? So the winds have been shifting out of a more southerly direction today. Okay? And when you have that, dew points are going to rise, temperatures are going to rise, and eventually with an east or a southeast wind, you're actually going to start to see the chance of a couple of showers over on the East Coast. So that is one thing that I would not be surprised to see over the next few days. This morning, we started in the 40s to the upper 50s. Tomorrow, you can add about 10 degrees to that. All right, now I'm getting a call. Stand by. I'm getting a call from my daughter. Just a second. Want to make sure everything's okay. I'm on live on DPL now. Is everything okay? Yes. Ryan, are you doing okay? Yes. Okay, I want you to say hello. I'm going to hold the phone up to the microphone, and I want you to say hello to everybody because they've asked about how you are. So go ahead and talk to all the people out there and let us know how you're doing.
Hello.
All right, well, that was brilliant. It took you a long time to come up with that one. All right, sweetie, I will call you after the show, okay?
Okay.
All right, I love you. All right, bye. Okay, that was my daughter, Ryan. You guys know her well. So, anyway, let's get back to where we were. So with a southerly wind, right, we're going to see our temperatures rise, our dew point rise right through the middle of next week. This morning, we started in the low to mid 40s. We ended in the upper 70s to the middle 80s. Now, along the coast with your Gulf breeze, of course, it's going to be cooler. The water temperature is 67-ish. So you're going to be quite a bit cooler along the immediate coastline. All right? So temperatures right now in the 60s under partly cloudy to clear skies. Now, Jake, you are correct. Now, that is a valid comment. Who's ready for a busy La Nina cane season? Now, that is a valid comment, not the one where it's 1 in 284,000 year event. That one just set me off, clearly. Sea fog, Ryan, that is a possibility. That is a possibility, although the winds will probably keep that from being a real issue. Rain for relay for Life Saturday afternoon, night. David, you will be dodging some showers if it's north of I-4, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Busy hurricane season, Renee. Okay. So there's the Jimmy Stewart in the house. I love Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart's one of my favorite old-time actors. My wife likes Cary Grant, but I like Jimmy Stewart because I love It's a Wonderful Life, one of my favorite movies ever. All right, tomorrow, we're a lot like today, just a little bit warmer, okay? Now, here's the thing. Starting on Thursday into Friday, you get a stalled out front. Beverly, how are you? You get a stalled out front off to our north, okay? Now, with that frontal boundary sitting across northern Florida, we will be on the south side of that front, which means we're on the warm side of the front. Southerly winds, that front's not leaving for days, okay? Whether it makes it into maybe north central Florida, Ocala-ish, or a little bit north, that obviously has a huge impact. But the bottom line is whoever is south of that front will be warmer and muggier and partly to mostly cloudy, okay? That starts to come into our forecast on Thursday into Friday. Then you notice later in the day on Thursday into Friday, the clouds begin to increase, but rain is still not an issue. It'll be warm, it'll be muggy, it'll be partly to mostly cloudy, but it will be dry. Now, you do see a couple of those green blobs, those green blips over on the East Coast with an east to southeast wind. That brings in the possibility of a few scattered showers on the East Coast. But will they move it into our general area? I think not. At least not on Thursday or Friday. All right? Highlands County, maybe, but probably not. I still have near zero chance of rain through Friday. Okay? I'm going to take this full. You can see it a little bit easier. Gail in Bradenton, how goes it? So, tomorrow morning we start upper 50s to low 60s. Noticeably warmer, like 10 degrees warmer. Wednesday, we start in the low to middle 80s. Warm, muggy, more clouds in the afternoon. Pamela in Auburndale, how goes it? Nancy in Clearwater, how are you too? Thursday morning, we start low to mid 60s. We end in the middle 80s, southern counties. Now, that's worth noting because look at that 70s in Citrus County. If the front makes it as far south as Citrus or Hernando, they're going to be a good 10 degrees cooler than our southern counties. So that's where I'm saying. And when I show you the models in just a minute, you're going to kind of see some of the models are hinting that could make it as far south as north central Florida, the Ocala area. But anywhere from I-4 south, it's going to stay warm. It's going to stay muggy. We're right back in the upper 70s to low 80s on Friday. Now, looking at the rain potential, this is what I'm concerned about. Look at Saturday. There's going to be some scattered showers around. I just don't see any way around it. Do I think it's going to be a widespread rain event? I do not. Do I think it's going to be a washout? I do not. Do I think you should still come to the Gasparilla Festival of Arts? I do. I will be there. You should be there too. Safety Harbor, Donna, how you doing? Sarasota, Carolyn, how are you? Palm Harbor, Elizabeth, good to see you. But I do think there will be some scattered showers around this weekend, and it pains me to say that, but I think that's the way it plays out. But because that front stays north of Tampa, this is a Tampa model run, it stays in the 80s for the next 7 to 10 days. But we'll go farther than that. It stays in the 80s for the next 2 weeks. Brian in Winter Haven, how goes it? Nice to see you. So we stay at or above average for the next 2 weeks. So Wendy Ryan was asking me, she's like, Den, can I put away my turtlenecks? The answer would be no, because it will be getting cold. There's no way we're not going to have another front or 2 or 3. We're not even into March yet. So we're going to have another round of colder weather coming in. There's just no way around it. And a lot of times it even come into the early part of April. But are we at the home stretch? That seems pretty reasonable, that we're getting close to that home stretch. I mean, right? Because we're almost to March. Eric and Tarpon, how goes it? Thank you very much, Charlene, a Canadian snowbird in Zephyr Hills, and nice to see you as well. All right, so as you see, staying at or above average for the next 2 weeks. For the boaters, southerly winds, there they are. South of the front, southerly winds, 15 to 20 knots, seas a couple of feet, moderate chop in the bay, water temperature 67 degrees. Baywood Village, Bruce, how are you? To Linden Lake, Wales, good to see you. Jewel, hearts right back to you as well. There's your beach forecast. More clouds tomorrow afternoon than we've had today, but still warm. But that water temperature is keeping those coastal areas cooler, 67. So the beach temp will be in the 70s, whereas it'll be in the 80s inland. There's your forecast tonight, increasing cloud cover. 7-day forecast, upper 70s to low 80s, low to mid 80s inland. But on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, that front gets close enough to give us a chance for some showers. So let's talk more about that with the models, all right? So if we look at the GFS, hashtag cha-ching, if you know, you know, here's tomorrow morning. There's Thursday morning. There's Friday morning. There's Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, most of the rain north. The gray color there is not clouds, that is light rain. So literally right along I-4 is where that rain chance on Saturday, I-4 northward, is the highest. All right, and that's Saturday morning, right? Saturday morning? Saturday morning? March 3rd. Wait a minute, stand by. Looking at the calendar. No, that's Sunday morning. So that's Sunday morning. So here's Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, again, scattered showers in the afternoon. I just don't think there's any way we can avoid at least a few scattered showers. Widespread? No. Scattered, yes. And that continues into Monday. More of the same. And even possibly into Tuesday, because here's the thing. When a front stalls out over Florida, it can sit there for a while. And as long as it does, there's going to be the chance of some scattered showers. There's just no way around it. Okay? Now, you guys know one of my favorite websites out there is Tropical Tidbits. Levi Cohen is the guy who runs it. He's an FSU PhD. The guy is brilliant. He's really knowledgeable about tropical weather, and he has a really great website. This is it, tropicaltidbits.com. Here's the euro that he has on his site, okay? And we're going to go through time. But look at the euro, and look how far south the front makes it with the euro. It brings it pretty much right into our area. Not a ton of rain with it, but the front does come down into central Florida. And then you get that little wave of low pressure developing along it, and you see another chance of rain again over the weekend. So here's my thought, but there's plenty of breaks. Like, look at that. What time is that? That is midnight that's midnight Friday night. And here's Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So, I mean, there are showers in the forecast. I just don't see any way around it. Widespread, no. Showers, yes. And then Sunday. And then finally, look what happens. You get another area of low pressure and another front come in toward the end of that period. That would be on the 6th. No. Yes, that's March 6th. So the euro, as you see, we'll go back in time. Bloop. The euro brings the front in on Saturday. Weak low pressure develops along it, lifts northeast. Trailing front just lingers Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then you get a break on Tuesday, and then another low with another front on Wednesday and Thursday, just hanging around. So what does that mean to you guys in terms of sensible weather? It means that we're looking, yes, we will get another cold front or two or three, Joe. But the way I look at it, I think we're in for some unsettled weather starting over the weekend and in through next week. Doesn't mean it's going to rain the whole time, but it does mean we'll see more clouds. We stay warm because we're in the warm sector, all right? But it does not mean that we're going to see rain the entire time, but I do think we're going to be dodging raindrops. That's my take on that. All right, now, I want to go ahead and show you some graphics on the tropics, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a discussion over why I am so adamant about this stuff that we have been seeing on social media, because it shows up on my feed too. It shows up on my feed, and it irritates me beyond anything in the world. Because people, and I'm going to tell you something here, all right? And I'm going to go down this road for a brief minute, okay? There are even some meteorologists out there that I respect that are very active in YouTube and other places. And as knowledgeable as these individuals are, these headlines that are out there that are designed to get clicks and instill fear really bother me. And it is a monetization thing, because there are some places out there on YouTube channels and TikTok that they're making money on these clicks. And hey, more power to them. I'm totally good with that. I have no problem with that. But what I do have an issue with is putting a thumbnail that is designed to invoke fear or get a reaction. And it isn't to get a reaction, it's to invoke fear. I mean, it just is. And I've seen it a lot over the last 6 months in some spots. And, you know, how people do their own thing is awesome. I have no problem with it. But I do have an issue when it's designed to invoke fear. And why do I have an issue? Because then those people message me and say, oh my God, I'm seeing this and this and this. And It's just designed. And I will tell you even more. Sometimes the actual body of those posts are not fear. They're not trying to sell fear. It's just those headlines that get you to click it. And clearly it's something I'm very passionate about, because to me, you instill trust by telling people what's really going to happen, not by getting them on your page just to get clicks and to get monetization on there. And it really, really bothers me clearly a lot. So anyway, so that's just what bothers me. So what I'm saying about this upcoming year, yes, we are in an El Nino. I've been showing you this graphic for 7 months. I mean, I've been showing you this graphic since the middle of the last summer, when we knew it was going to be a wet and stormy winter, and it has been. We also know that El Nino, it doesn't just flip a switch. It doesn't go from El Nino to La Nina. What does that even mean? El Nino is an excess of warm water off the coast of South America. It transitions to colder water at some point in time, which then becomes La Nina. In between the two, it's neutral. Makes sense. Warm, cold, neutral. La Nina, no. El Nino, La Nina, neutral. We're transitioning to a La Nina, and when that happens, we are far more likely to see weaker upper-level winds in the tropics, so that brings a higher probability of tropical development. All right? So let's get down to brass tacks, whatever that means, by the way. I'm sure there's a meaning to behind, but I don't know what that is. But let's get down to it. Just because there is warmer than average water in a certain spot does not mean it will be a more active hurricane season or an extremely violent hurricane season overall, because there are so many variables, as you see here, that causes a hurricane to develop. The positioning of Bermuda highs in terms of where the steering currents will be pushing the storm is huge. I don't care if there's 1,000 hurricanes in the middle of the Atlantic, if they stay in the middle of the Atlantic. That doesn't mean they're going to threaten the United States or the Caribbean just because they are forming. Now, statistically, can you make the argument if there's more out there, there's going to be a higher risk? You can to the east coast of the U.S. You can't to the west coast. If you go back, and I've done it, if you go back and look at history in terms of higher than average Atlantic hurricane seasons, has not translated at all to a higher percentage of landfalling hurricanes on the west coast of Florida, period. Now, if you get higher development in the Caribbean, then it may. But that's not where the excess warm water is right now. That warm water that people are saying is every bit as warm now as it would be in July, which is true, is out in the tropical Atlantic. Tropical Atlantic systems are far greater threats to the east coast of the U.S. than it is to the west coast. Now, Irma, sometimes they do they make it down by Cuba and they pull a Huey, but that is by no means the norm on a storm coming in from the east side of the Atlantic. So, and I'm going to continue this on Facebook. If you want to keep watching, I'm going to talk for a few minutes more. But at the end of the day, we have a La Nina coming up. That means there's a higher probability of better conditions for developing storms. You don't get the upper level winds causing shear, which can often limit the development of a system. So if you have more pristine conditions, then there's a better chance they could develop. Obviously, if you have warm water, that's going to help as well. But you know what? I don't care how warm the water is. If you get a ton of Saharan dust coming in off of Africa, I don't care how warm it is, you're not going to see development. So you just can't sit here and say, oh, the water's really warm now. That means we're going to have what was it? The most explosive 1 in 284,000 year event. You can't do it. Or if you do, you don't know what you're talking about. All right? So we look at so many variables that come into play when it comes to hurricane season. Now, is the prediction probably and by the way, that La Nina is going to be the back end weighted, which September and October can be pretty active seasons, active times of the year for tropics, right? So do I think the forecast is going to come in high? I do. But that doesn't mean it's going to threaten any given spot any more than it would on any other year. We all know we get hit sometimes when there's a quiet year and we don't get it when it's an active year. So if you're watching on our streaming app, if you want to follow it, continue on Facebook. I'm going to be talking for a few more minutes on Facebook. See you. Okay, so the streamers are gone. Okay, I'm not even looking at you, Bridget. All these comments that you're making, apparently I'm just missing because I did not see any of them. So I apologize. All right, so Skyway run on Sunday in the afternoon. I think you're dodging showers. All right, so let's talk about, statistically speaking, and I'll go down this road, and it's not a rabbit hole, by the way. I'm not a jinx guy. My kids hate me for not being a jinx guy, but I'm not. But here's the bottom line. You can make the argument, and you can make an exceptional argument using real numbers and facts as opposed to nonsense, that the central part of the west coast of Florida is not in a particularly hurricane-prone area. That doesn't mean we're not going to get them. We will. You know we will. We all know we will. It's been over 100 years since it's been over. How in the world can you say that you are in a hurricane-prone area when it's been over 100 years since we've had one? Right there. You can't. That doesn't mean we're not going to see them. We will. And that's what the big concern is, because it's been such a long time that the Bay Area has been hit directly by a major hurricane. You worry about buildings. You worry about people who have older buildings that really haven't gone through a storm. So we haven't gone through what Andrew did for South Florida and Charlie did for southwestern Florida in the rebuilding of places more hurricane proof. The Panhandle, they're used to it. Unfortunately, they are. But you can make the argument, a very valid argument, and I'll make it, that Central Florida, West Central Florida, is not in a hurricane-prone area for a number of reasons. But that doesn't mean we're not going to see another one, because we will. We all know we will. That's what we prepare for. But the Panhandle is in a hurricane-prone area, because we'll say this again, for storms, and by the way, we're stuck on this tropical depression map, and it goes from depressions, and it goes to tropical storms, and goes to hurricane. And then, of course, there's the folks who want to add a Category 6 to the scale. And you know what? If they want to do it, I don't have a problem with it. It doesn't matter. Just because there's a 6 added to hurricane scales, if it were to happen, doesn't change the regularity or the number of times that one's going to happen, right? The winds are the winds. If I tell you there's a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 156 miles an hour coming, and I tell you there's a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 190 miles an hour coming, which one are you going to be more nervous about? The one with 190, right? So does it matter that might be 190 and a Cat 6 or 190 or Cat 5? Who cares? The winds are the winds. Doesn't matter what the category is. Okay, so here's a look, obviously, at when the months are most active, and that's why we're a little concerned with the La Nina toward the end of the season, because that's typically when we have a more active period. Okay? We've talked a lot about the different dynamics and the logistics of a hurricane, what quadrants are the strongest and the weakest. But as I said, a storm coming in from the south, from the Caribbean, our worst case scenario is a storm that misses Cuba on the west, misses the Yucatan on the east, splits the difference, goes due north, hooks right because of a trough or a front, and comes into the Bay Area. Clearly, it doesn't happen often. It's been 103 years, right? Usually, what will happen is a hurricane will want to go north. It will want to go poleward toward the poles, and that would be due north. So if everything else is equal, which a lot of times it's not, but if everything else is equal, a storm is far more likely to go into the Panhandle than it would be into our area. That's just a fact. It's just meteorology 101. It just is. And when we happen to have a trough dig down and a storm coming in from the south and it hooks right, then we're going to see ours as well, and it will happen. But remember, this is why, and there's a lot of people that say this, and they're right on the money with this. When we're looking at the risk of a hurricane coming in from the west coast of Florida, that line, that cone of uncertainty, really needs to be the entire west coast of Florida, including the Panhandle. It does. Because I'll use this example every single time. Steering wheel, Cuba. Move the steering wheel just a little bit. 10 miles down the road, you haven't moved that far. 150 miles down the road, you have. So just a subtle movement down when it's south of us, whether it's in Cuba or the Yucatan, has a massive impact on where it eventually goes. And the bottom line is, we're just not that good enough right now to forecast a 10 or 15 mile difference in a track. Okay, so when the models look at something, they're looking at what's called an initialization point. It's ground zero, if you will, right? Where that X marks the spot, the model goes from that point off. If that initialization is 15 miles off because the eye or the center has moved a little bit, or they're a little bit off in the fix, or whatever the case may be, then that 15 miles, which sounds like nothing, literally a 15-mile difference south of Cuba could be an East Coast or a West Coast storm. We're not good enough, and the models aren't that precise in determining that. So, as I said, when a storm is coming in from the south, the entire west coast of Florida should be in the cone of uncertainty, and they will be. And the new numbers, the new graphics that come out of the Hurricane Center in the middle of August are going to help not just for coastal areas, but also for impacts on inland areas as well. So here's my point in all of this. I guarantee you're going to be hearing a lot of buzz, most of it unfounded, about how this is going to be the worst hurricane season ever. Well, remember back in 2005 when we had 30 some odd named storms? And remember when there's been other times where the water's been warm and we haven't had as many? There are so many other things that come into play. So anybody who just defaults to, oh, it's really warm in the water now, it's the same as it is in July, we're all going to have a ton of hurricanes and they're all going to be horrible and it's all going to hit everybody. Block. Ban that person, because it's just not, it's not meteorology. It's just not. It's not climatology either, right? It's hype. And it's hype to try to get clicks for YouTube and money. And it just is. So, all right. So what else do we have here? John wants to know if winter is over. Winter is, okay, so there you go. I'm getting off my soapbox. You're going to hear me talking a lot about this over the next few months. Here's my ultimate take. Do I think it's going to be an active hurricane season? I do. Do I think the warmer water will cause storms to be stronger, faster? Well, they've been that way for 7 or 8 years. As we've seen the water warm, our storms have gotten stronger, faster than we have seen in the past. That's a fact. And you can call it climate change, you can call it whatever you want to. There's no arguing that. Where I have the problem, the issue, is when people take that and mean that that is a much larger threat to land masses. And that's just not true. Statistically speaking, yes, the Outer Banks of the Carolinas, if you were to look at numbers and say, if it's a more active season in the Cape Verde area of the Atlantic, and you would say that would the Outer Banks of the Carolinas be higher risk because of it? I don't have those numbers, but I would say that's probably the case. Maybe 3 to 5% greater risk. And because that's the direction, if a storm out there is going to take, it's more than likely going to take that route. Okay? But statistically speaking, a more active, or not even more active, because here's something else. Just because the water's warmer does not mean more storms are going to form. Period. It means they'll get stronger, theoretically, if everything else is equal and they go over the warm water and it warms up and it causes intensification. That's a valid point. But it does not mean there's going to be more storms. Number of storms form, how many waves come off of Africa, the monsoon season off of Africa, the Sahel Desert, how much dry air comes down. There's all these other things. So you know what? It's lazy to sit here and say, oh, we're going to have, because the water's warm in one spot, we're going to have a way more active hurricane season. Just a bunch of nonsense. All right, anyway, there you go. So that's where I am with this. I told you guys I was going to talk about that. And Linda, I do not think there's going to be another evening with Denis Phillips. I think that one was plenty. It was a great night. We had a ton of people at the Straz. I only have so many stories, and you've heard them. So at this point, I have not heard that there's going to be any others, and I kind of don't think there would be. If they asked me to do it, I don't even know if I would want to. Truth be told, I didn't want to last year because I thought 3 people would show up. So I was kind of floored that it was a full house. But my take is, yeah, I don't believe there's going to be another one of those. But we do have meet and greets and different things, so that's good. Okay. There is no storm out there right now, Danielle. The only reason I'm talking about this stuff is because of the things I'm seeing on my TikTok feed and my Facebook feed and people who don't have a clue just trying to stir the pot. I'm all for pot stirring, mind you, but not when it comes to hinging on fear and profiting on people's fear. That just really, really irritates me. Okay, so let me call up the 7-day again real quick for you guys, and I will answer any questions you may or may not have about the weekend forecast or about the tropics. I've got off my soapbox now. You know me, I'll be on it a lot more as the season goes on. All right, let me call this up. Okay. So there's the 7-day. Okay. Well, the thunderstorm season, boy, Ryan, you know what? It's a great question. You would like to think that we're not going to have 2 summers in a row with below average rain. But it really all boils down to, again, the positioning of the Bermuda High. Because if we get a westerly wind in the summertime, 80% of the time, it'll be every bit as dry as it was last year. It's all it was. Wind direction is everything in Florida. Everything. West wind, most of the rain inland and east coast. East wind, the west coast gets its share. And that all depends on where the Bermuda High and the ridge is set up in the summertime. And this far out, who knows? You know? It's all it is. It's a simple thing and impossible to predict months out in advance. But that's what's going to be the answer. If we get a west wind, it's going to be every bit as dry as last year on the west coast and way too much rain on the east coast, just like they had last year. How does the neutral between, good question, Heather. Obviously, with neutral, neither here nor there. If you have an El Nino with warm water, upper level winds are significantly stronger, causing the storms to weaken or not develop at all. A La Nina, colder water. Winds are less negative and you get more development. And in between the two, typically neither here nor there. There's nothing that says it would be less or more. It's just neutral. But again, and it's a great point. It's a great question too, because we don't just go from here to here. We go from here to here over several months. It takes for it to happen, and vice versa, to go from a La Nina back to an El Nino. It literally takes several months for it to happen. PJ, how goes it? So the way it probably plays out, we stay in an El Nino for another 6 to 8 weeks. We start to transition to neutral early summer, and then we transition to a La Nina by late summer, early fall. It's the way it looks like it's going to play out. The water temperature is absolutely a thing in terms of development of existing tropical systems, but has nothing to do with how many form. And anybody who says differently, they just don't know what they're talking about. That water temperature will come into play in an active season, but in addition, and here's something else that happens, and it's just another variable that comes into play. Quite often, when a hurricane is a large and strong hurricane way out in the Atlantic, the majority of the time, by the time it makes it to the east, well, either the East Coast or the Bahamas or wherever, it's run into things that cause it to weaken. Very rarely do you have a storm, it happens, but very rarely do you have a storm that develops and stays a beast for 10 days as it goes all the way across the ocean. Usually it runs into issues, drier air, whatever the case may be. Eye wall replacement cycles are something that these storms go through. Typically what will happen is the eye wall will collapse, a new eye is formed, and when that happens, the storm gets a little bit wider, a little bit bigger, not stronger per se, but wider, and then when it's bigger, it could get stronger. So they go through these, there's so many hurdles for them to climb, and a lot of times they don't make it. So I'll say this again. Are we going to have an active season? Yeah, we probably are. We usually do. I don't think there's any reason to think we wouldn't. Will there be some big storms like there always are? Yeah, there will. But is there any proof, statistically or otherwise, or anything out there that leads us to believe that that will be a bigger threat to the east coast of Florida or the U.S.? No, there isn't. Now, as we get closer to the season, and we're 100 days out, as we get less, but ballpark, as we get closer to the season, all right, when we start seeing if the Caribbean, like in an El Nino year, the Caribbean gets shut down. And that happened last year. We had nothing in the Caribbean, nothing. So in an El Nino, the Caribbean gets shut down and you turn your attention way out more toward the other part of the Atlantic. So if we see the Caribbean getting more active, some of the long-range models hinting at more development there, then that's something we need to pay attention to more because that's where our biggest concern would be. A Caribbean storm going north, going in east of the Yucatan, west of Cuba, and moving into the Gulf. Typically, that's our worst-case scenario. All right? But anyway, that's just what I wanted to talk about today. No 540 lines, guys. Yeah, here, I'll go back and show you where they are. Again, this is from that Tropical Tidbit site. Levi, just an amazing site. Really is, seriously, just like, yeah. So I'm going back in time. Bloop. So look at the eastern third of the U.S. Nothing. There goes another low. Maybe by day 10 it gets into the Appalachians, but nothing for us. We are going to be warm for the next 2 weeks. That's just what it is. Okay? All right, guys. Well, that is about it. We will talk, obviously, a lot more about this. We had our first meeting for our hurricane special today, so just kind of brainstorming, and first thing I brought up was, I want to do something on this nonsense that, just because the water's warm means it's going to be the worst hurricane season ever. It's just not true. So we'll be back on Thursday, talk more about the rain chances this weekend. Hopefully, the weather will cooperate for the Gasparilla Festival of Arts again. I'm emceeing it Saturday and Sunday. Great event. Love it. The people are the greatest volunteers ever. And it's just a lot of fun. So hopefully you get a chance to come out and see us on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be there from about 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. It's a long day. And like 9 in the morning until 6 o'clock on Sunday. But it is a lot of fun. So thanks for stopping by. And we will see how the rain plays out. But it won't be tomorrow or Thursday or Friday. If we see scattered showers, it would probably be on Saturday or Sunday. You guys have a great night, and we will see you on Thursday night's edition of Denis Phillips Live. See you guys.
We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities.
Why?
Because
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-don't list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy Boy, long live the lazy.